Hi
Hi,
guys.
Latarria. Hey, Eazy.
Hi.
So excited to talk about this today because one, so far, a lot of the conversations have been very thinking about the technical side of things and, from a platform perspective and really what this space means to athletes. I think with this group, we have a couple different perspectives to lean into for sure, as it relates to maybe the global like advertising industry as a whole. And then definitely when it comes to the creator side and maybe even talking about, experiences that can help the athletes even beyond where they are right now. So I'd love to start a little bit by informing the audiences about us and who we are and how our roles relate to NIL athletes and these kinds of opportunities. And we can start with you, Latarria, and you can tell us a little bit about what that means.
Sure. I'm Latarria Coy. I'm the head of ethical media at Influential. That means that I guide brands and creators towards more equitable marketing. So from my perspective, I guess I can just sort of put it out there, is that I view everything through a lens of DE&I, which is why this space is particularly important to me, because I feel like this is a conversation that we need to have more, especially because it's so new, and especially because it's steeped in the history of sports. So I just want to put that out there, that's sort of my vantage point, and I'm happy to have this discussion with you guys.
Yeah, and I really wanted you to call that out because I mean, when I think of sports and athletes, like they're coming from every single background, like size and shape.
100%.
So excited to lean into that. Eazy.
What's up, Tiff?
Tell us about your role a bit and what are you doing here and what has your work experience been on the sports side of things?
Yeah, so I'm a campaign manager. I run kind of the day-to-day for our campaigns, for our brands. So my background is kind of, I say it's a winding road and it's kind of diverse. So I played football for a while. I played in college and in the NFL. And when I stopped playing, I immediately jumped into the marketing world and was marketing for a sports agency. So working with a ton of athletes, a ton of NFL athletes, and obviously met the great people at Influential, and now we are thriving. So basically, kind of my vantage point is being one from being off on the field to now kind of being in these meetings and driving revenue to the athletes, to the influencers, on a different scale. So.
Yeah, that's awesome to know. And we'll talk more about kind of like what that communication has been like with them, because I know that this is so brand new to everyone, not just from the athlete perspective, but even us on the back end, like working with them and understanding their style, because at the end of the day, they're students and they are like professionals in their own right, and this is something additional for them. So it'll be really interesting. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what the initial maybe response has been. And we can talk from an advertising perspective, definitely talking about some of the brands and clients that we have, but and definitely from the athlete perspective, have you guys seen a lot of, I guess, positive response, or what has that response been like as a whole? Taria?
I guess I'll take that because I feel like Eazy has way more to say, and so do you, Tiff. But I think in general, everyone's super psyched about it. Like everyone, like the athletes are, obviously, because for the first time, they're able to really profit off their name, image, and likeness. There's no one that's going to be mad at that. Brands are really excited because it just opens up a new opportunity for them to reach Gen Z audiences and just to tap into a new audience, and also like in a new way, because student athletes, one thing that's amazing about them is that they're not like necessarily stars yet. And so their audiences are people who like follow them, they're fans, they're friends in a lot of cases. And so the content they produce, the authenticity that they bring is just next level, which is on top of the fact that influencer marketing has sort of this built-in authenticity factor. So I think the world is excited. I know we're 1 year in, but I can't wait to see what's to come.
I agree. What do you think, Eazy?
Yeah, so I'm basically going to talk in a little bit of a bias situation here, just because. So I was a former student athlete. So for me, kind of seeing NIL come to life and all of that, like everybody's basically been waiting on this, and it's so basically, man, the brands are excited, the athletes are excited, you know, and it's you know, giving athletes the ability to kind of showcase themselves in a different light and showcase themselves as other than athlete, how they are off the field, their interests, and it's just been so cool to kind of see the way that brands look at athletes and what their initiatives are and what the athlete wants from the brand as well. So pure excitement, long overdue. That's a whole nother discussion for all my athletes out there, but yeah, just so much excitement.
I agree. I feel like this is one of the new, I mean, TikTok was definitely a thing. Brands are like, let's go, you know, just as a whole. Now to think about name, image, likeness, and being able to compensate student athletes for this, it's like one of the more open, I want to say, like brands have been a little bit more open to this and just kind of learning as they go and like maybe pressing start even a little bit just to get their feet wet. Like it hasn't had as much hesitation as maybe some other things. Like I know like live shopping and experiences like that might take a little bit more time when it comes to, you know, working with influencers. These influencers just happen to be like college athletes. It's been like a no-brainer. They're like, do you guys want to do it? Can you guys do it? And of course we're like, yes, like say less. Let's talk about, you know, the types of partners we can put in our Rolodex to make sure that this is like a very smooth and educational process for us all. So I agree with you both. Like it's been super exciting.
And sorry to jump in, but like to add on to that, I think with the excitement, there has been some like hesitancy because like as a student athlete, like you're drilled in your head, like whatever you do, I don't care if somebody wants to buy you a loaf of bread, a cup of coffee, do not accept it, do not engage in any conversations. So there's been a bit of just, you know, confusion on, is this okay? Can I do this? Can I talk to this person? What is the process, you know, when somebody reaches out to me? Do I have to disclose that immediately? You know, because obviously you don't want to have like some, you know, NCAA sanction or whatever, but it's been drilled in your head for literally since you were a kid that whatever you do, if anybody comes to you with money or a brand deal or an endorsement, say no and run away. So with the excitement, there's just been a ton of, you know, trying to reprogram yourself to say, hey, like student athletes are brands. Student athletes are, you know, they're their own, they can make money, they can increase revenue for other people, you know, with who they are, not just for the school, but for themselves. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting as well.
Yeah, that leads me to think a little bit about and learn a little bit more from you on like what the creative process has been like. Because I know at the beginning from an advertiser and brand perspective, you know, they're thinking about maybe an idea that they have or a larger tentpole moment to tap into. For example, right now it's the 50th anniversary of Title IX. And instead of butchering it and like not giving it the credit it needs, I'm going to read what this law actually is. So it's the law that ensures all education programs and activities receiving federal funding must protect students and employees from sex-based discrimination, right? So really making sure that everyone is included and able to have access to the same resources. Now, I think it's moving forward, right? There's still a lot of work to do, I think, for us at least in the US, but creatively speaking, I think that moments like these have kind of allowed more like authentic creative to be developed. And it's no longer just, I mean, influencer marketing as a whole is no longer product placement for the sake of it. It's really about genuine authenticity in these campaigns that are put forth. But I think even more so with athletes, because they kind of have a quasi maybe established personal brand and they like what they like, you know, they know what's going on in the world for the most part. So are you seeing that too? Are they, you know, bringing their own ideas to the table when it comes to some of these brands and opportunities that come to them? Are they coming to you with ideas and enthusiasm? What's that been like?
Yeah, so like,
sorry, Evan, sorry, Easy, before you jump in, I just kind of wanted to build on that question. Like, what are brands expecting as well? Like, so I'm thinking about influencer marketing and how it is, you know, the powerhouse that it is, and like what it looks like and what brands expect to see in content, and how are athletes like thinking about that? Just when you answer, I'd love to like hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so it's in to like you guys kind of you hit the nail on the head, but
Once
you
you
know there
Yeah.
there are brands that like want to capitalize on things like that, like you know the anniversary of Title IX and just different things that haven't really been highlighted as much in sports or in the college ranks, and so I think what's interesting is brands are coming at us with, hey, like we want to tell this story. We want to highlight, you know, these different athletes, or highlight this, you know, the anniversary of Title IX, or whatever it may be. And it's interesting because we're actually working with a well-known dating app, and they want to do kind of that of how can we tell these stories of, you know, of Title IX and how it works, how it looks in sports, and how it's implemented, and be able to kind of reach everybody, not just, you know, the top athletes in the world, not just, you know, blonde hair, blue eyed models, but diversity, different body types, different sports, across the board, people that are that don't really get as much spotlight or whatever. How can we highlight them? And so what I'm seeing is brands want you to be you. So they, you know, they don't want it to be cookie cutter of like, hey, like just we're looking for people that specifically do this. It's how can we highlight what makes you unique, and so that I think that's the biggest thing, at least that I see, is that you know, usually typically in marketing you go after a specific idea or genre, but with NIL it's more like, no, like we want to see who they are off the field, we want to see who they are as a person, and we want to highlight that.
I agree with that.
that.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome to hear. And I totally agree with that based on what I've been seeing. From a brand perspective, I know that it's more so been, okay, wow, they can get compensated now. Like if for whatever reason they missed the news cycle, they're like, okay, what is it like? They haven't been able to do this before, right? And so it's really getting educated on what this moment means, and then taking in consideration maybe their content calendar or just like core values. It's very storytelling based is what I'm seeing, at least in the marketplace. It's not just, you know, we have a new shampoo coming out and we really want to get into the hands. While that could be a part of it, it's also saying, can we talk more about these organizations that we're supporting that also have, you know, education ties or female or diversity ties or female ties, things like that. So it's been really fun to see and have them be open from, again, storytelling, messaging, and making sure that they understand like what this legislation really means. And then I know creatively, what I've been hearing too from the campaign team is that it has been a lot of eagerness, but a lot of flexibility has been needed to be made, because at the end of the day, we don't want to sacrifice, you know, their athletic careers for the sake of, you know, an opportunity. We don't want this to get into the way of what they do best in this case, right? And so we want to support them and be able to manage schedules. Midterms, I think, are this week. You know, we have several, like leading into March Madness tournament. Like we want to make sure, like, do you have a game today? Like maybe we post this next week instead, or maybe we work with, you know, off-season athletes. I think that that's something that we've also discussed as well, like making sure like these athletes are going to be available and ready, and we're making sure like we're managing everything along the way.
Yeah,
and the other way that we have to, sorry.
Go ahead. I think we're all just excited.
Yeah, I think the other way that we have to support them is to ensure that they get paid fairly, right? So like you mentioned a little while ago that it was sort of ingrained in you that you should run away from money. So you're taking people that have that mindset and then giving them money to do something. We just need to make sure that they are getting paid equitably and fairly. And then that brands are like the brand that you just mentioned. That sounds fantastic that they're using different sports. Because honestly, when I first thought about NIL, I assumed it would be sort of D1 football, basketball, like just that's it, you know? But now to see that brands are reaching in to fencing, to golf, to all these sports, and that they're looking at LGBTQ athletes and Asian Pacific Islander athletes. And I just want to see more of that and less of just, you know, straight D1, typical athletes that you would assume would make a ton of money, both in college and also in their professional careers. But for a lot of these athletes, this is the time for them to capitalize off their sport because they may not go pro. And like, what can we do to support them and sort of set them up?
Yeah, so I, you know, I was obviously listening to all the great panelists before this, and I think somebody said, you know, one of the big things is walk before you run, and especially now where, you know, NIL is so brand new, and it's, you know, sometimes it feels like the Wild West. We're figuring it out as we go, but you know, I think it's important for, you know, student athletes to not just take a deal because, you know, any brand reached out to them and they're gonna pay them whatever, but to really, you know, do you see yourself with that brand? Do you identify with their values? Do you, you know, do you see, you know, is their creative good? Like what, like, you know, the terms of the deal, what is it, a 1-year deal? Is it a, you know, one post deal? What does that look like? Because, you know, you want to be careful about the deals that you take, and you want to, you know, align yourselves with brands that are gonna, you know, that you're gonna work with for a lifetime, or that you know, feel proud about working with, and connecting with. So, you know, I think it's tough when, you know, we're talking about, like you said, like athletes that typically don't get a lot of marketing, and, you know, they're at a school where, you know, the starting quarterback is getting, you know, $100 million deals. That would be great. But, and, you know, they're in fencing, and, you know, they got offered a deal for $100 or whatever, to do whatever post. I think it's more about being strategic with, not about the money right now, but being strategic with what that messaging looks like, and, you know, what it can do for you long term, you know, and your image, and like I said, like, because you're now your own brand, and you have to build that up, throughout the years. So yeah, just being strategic with all partnerships.
100%. I know I've heard, we've had partners come to us and want a minimum payment rate, you know, for athletes. Like typically we're dictating a lot of these costs on the athlete side as we have conversations. I mean, not dictating, but allowing them to dictate for us. But if that hasn't met the minimum, for example, we've had brands making sure, like, you know, we want everyone, based on the campaign size and what we're looking, we want everyone to have this as a baseline, which I thought was really awesome, because, you know, when they try to cut costs on other things, this is something that's definitely not the case, right? If we're going to lean into this space and, you know, work with athletes of all sizes, they want to make sure they're being appropriately compensated for that. So that's been fun to be a little bit more transparent on that with the clients.
Yeah, and so that kind of takes away a lot of the confusion with NIL, because what I'm seeing is there's a lot of student athletes that they don't really know if it's a good deal or not, if, you know, they should negotiate it. And so what I've seen is, like, we've had brands, like you said, that say, hey, like, this is the deal for all of our athletes that we reach out to. These are the terms. You know, everybody's going to be on the kind of the same level. And so that kind of lets you, you know, relax a little bit, and just worry about the creative, and worry about being the best person that you can be. You know, especially being a student athlete, where you're going to school to literally, you know, build in your career, build on, you know, what you're going to be in the future. So with midterms, papers, you know, trying to figure out how to get a Scantron from the library, all of these things that you're worried about, it kind of, that minimizes the confusion and the negotiating. So I've seen that's been pretty cool.
100%. I want to talk a little bit about like some of the logistics that we may be kind of glossing over a little bit when it relates to activating these. So having certain partners in place with us as an organization to make sure that we're following all the rules. So at the end of the day, this is brand marketing. There's, you know, FTC guidelines for sure, but we never want anyone to be in a position to compromise an athlete's, you know, or jeopardize an athlete's ability to perform and play and do things that we do best. So what's that been like? I know that there's a lot that goes into it creatively. There's limitations on certain things that can be, you know, in the background, certain places that you can actually shoot this content. Are you seeing that athletes are open to that a little bit more and like shooting at home and, you know, plain clothes and just really kind of doing a raw bones, authentic approach to their creative versus, you know, highlighting them obviously like during a game? Are you seeing that they're open to some of these limitations and working with us in that way?
Yeah. So one thing that I think is pretty cool is that we have, you know, we have people on our team that connect with every compliance officer at schools before any deal is done, and literally hold your hand through the compliance process. So I think, you know, being a former student athlete myself I think that's cool because I'm telling you, I kid you not, when I was in college, we were scared to eat the wrong peanut butter and jelly because we didn't want, like, you know, there was rules about the bread and whatever, and you know, if somebody were to pay for your food at you know, the restaurant, you would be nervous to tell your compliance officer. So we would be scared to death of that guy or girl. So like we have people on our team that basically, you know, run you through that process, talk with you every step of the way. Hey, you can shoot it here. It would be better to shoot here. We can add logos. We can't add logos. We can mention your school. We can, you know, different things like that. And so, and there's a plan for everything. There's a plan before every deal. So I think that process has been amazing just because, once again, with NIL, I think the overarching thing here is to reduce confusion and allow the student athlete to be a student first and be an athlete second, and then now be a brand. And so, so yeah, it's been pretty seamless, and it kind of takes out all that worry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like to piggyback on that, like every state has different rules is how I understand it. Yep. So it's not even just sort of like broad compliance that anyone can sort of see and look at and adapt to, but the fact that you have to sort of go by state is huge. But yeah, I agree. I feel like the team at Influential has been really great at shepherding these projects along for the creators, but also for the brands, because it's a lot for a brand to even figure out on their own if they wanted to sort of go direct to influence.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. There's a lot that goes into it. So I want to say, like, if we're thinking logistically for any marketers looking to like tap into this, I want to say like extended timelines are always your friend. Like, piece of advice for sure. Like, we want to make sure we have a proper lead time. That's just been like a golden nugget for us, I know. I want to talk a little bit about, I know it's like very kind of campaign centric, and thinking about how this product or how this opportunity affects us on a campaign basis, audiences in their response, and athletes' audiences' response to this, and then like generally as consumers or as just folks on Instagram, are you guys noticing a specific response to it? Like, we know brands are leaning in, our audiences eating it up. Like, are we into it? Are we in favor? Have we had any athletes come to us and, you know, not want to do this anymore? Or what's been the appetite for this on that side?
So I'll jump in here. So like, I've seen a ton of excitement, and you guys probably are the same way as me. You're loud and proud for your school. I feel like your loyalty to your college, I feel like will is bar none. So like, I'll ride or die for my school, Texas A&M University. Let's go.
I was gonna ask.
Yeah. The fight
Name
Texas
dropping
Aggies,
over here.
Let's go. Anyway, But so yeah, it's just a ton of excitement, I think, just from, fans and engagement. People are proud that, hey, the swimmer on, at my college is on this, whatever ad. And it's so I think the engagement has been higher because of that, because now you're tapping into so many people that are like, no, yeah, look at that. Like, and you share it to your friends. And it's been a lot of hype. So I've seen that more than any negative that I've seen.
What about you, Tiff? Have you noticed any like great reaction, or how's it
Yeah.
been?
It's funny because I want to think of this as like an individual, and then like my friend groups, and then like from like a work perspective as well.
Yeah.
And so I'll start with the work perspective because it's easiest at this point. I'm seeing that it's kind of like when we work with micro influencers, based on your follower size, engagement tends to be a lot larger. Now, in this case, it's also kind of working with someone who's never done a brand deal, and their audiences are just like, yes, there you go. Like, here you are. We're so proud of you. Like, they understand like everything that's involved. So you might see things like get that bag. Like it's been very exciting in that way. But and then like
bag emoji.
Yeah, I know. It's a funny bag emoji. People are just like so excited. Like, you haven't seen it. This is like your friend now, or whatever, getting on stage, and it's just such a proud moment. Like, you were tapped to work with these awesome brands. I mean, nothing but really great brands have tapped into this, with really awesome things to say. So that's been fun from like a work perspective for sure. Like, engagement has been through the roof. I know I was a former athlete as well, but on the cheer side of things, we're athletes as well. And so I'm having friends. Cheer is a sport, y'all. It is. Ask California. We are seeing super like exciting for athletes, like younger siblings who are now like able to be compensated for it now. That's been really fun. And then just overall education about this and what it means for them as they move into their careers and stuff. So across the board, super thrilling for the most part.
Yeah, I agree. It's been amazing to watch. I think also like brands, like they get press, like they get a sort of a pat on the back as well. And I know every brand is sort of not into that, but for those that are, it's pretty cool. Even I think her name is LaQuanza Glover. She's like the first HBCU female athlete to get a NIL deal with like a trucking company. And even that made like national news because that's like a huge story. So I think if any brand is looking for like to make a dent in people's hearts and sort of a feel good story, this is sort of the space to do it in.
That's so funny that you do mention, or not funny, more so insightful that you mentioned the press angle, because nearly every opportunity that we've had has had a press component. And it definitely has to do with the overall, brand compensates athletes for the first time, but also, and it's tied to this, and there's this element to it. And, we're making sure like these are part of it. It's, again, not your run-of-the-mill one-off campaign anymore. A lot of them are like longer ambassadorships. And so to be able to tell that story from all different angles has been a value add, to say the least. Let's see. I want to tap into some questions that have popped in and that I know that people just want to hear a little bit more about. Let's see. When it comes to, this might be for you, Eazy, but Latarria, you can jump in as well. How can athletes create more visibility for themselves and get noticed by brands? It could be the same if you're thinking about influencers as a whole, but how can they get more visibility?
Yeah, so at least from my standpoint, I try to tell student athletes or influencers or whoever, as much as I can, just to be as authentic as you can be and be as genuine as you can be, because if you try to be somebody else on Instagram, I think it's so easy to call it out and be like, that was weird. That was weird content. So I think that, and then also, be loud and proud for your school, or just be as hype your teammates up. If something good happens, document it. People want to see, especially with student athletes, I guess is what I'm talking about, but people want to see what your life is like off the field. So as much as you can do in a responsible manner, but to, if you're going to get food, document it, have fun with it, and showcase that, show what after the game looks like. Show, maybe it's, man, we just got done playing this game and now I have to write this paper, or kind of highlight those stories that people don't really know about and people are very interested to see. But yeah, I would say just be as authentic as you can, and engage with your teammates.
So I will add this, and I feel like, an old auntie to say it, but a lot of brands are like, they look for like sort of squeaky clean talent, right? Not every brand. Every brand doesn't really care about that, but there's some brands that do. And like, I would sort of communicate to my kids about social, like, it's forever, right? So just like be mindful of what you post. So be authentic, but also like think, does so-and-so want to see this? Or, you know what I mean? So I don't know. That's just my old fuddy advice.
No, I think that that's super necessary, Latarria. Like whatever state happens on social, honestly, in a lot of cases stays there forever. Like we were told that. I think I'm a little bit older as well. And for an assignment in school, we had to make a Twitter account. And it was like the biggest deal at the time. It was like we had to grow it within like 4 weeks, right? And so
you must have killed it, Tiffanie.
I know. I mean, it's just words.
I already know.
It's mostly just words, right? And so it's kind of like you want to make sure, like, thankfully it was just words in that case, because like whatever you put out there again is forever. So like say the right things, take the right shots on angles. To your point, Eazy, like definitely start capturing more content. As as much of a job or laborious that might seem, like it's definitely a way into this world. Because I'll go back to say, like, yes, they're athletes first, but if they definitely want more opportunities, we want to know that you can take good photos or videos or content as a whole. And then from a very like basic standpoint, I would say too, like put your email address in your bio, like get a creator account.
100%.
I know.
1,000,000%. Like that is so key. I can't emphasize that enough, because brands want to reach out and like, it's like they don't know how, right? And they don't know if somebody's available. So I think that like, I can't say that more times. Like that's so clutch.
Yeah, I know. I'm like,
I think also like utilize all the formats, right? Like use reels, use video, like use everything.
Yeah.
Don't just post in stories, like use your feed as well.
100%. I know most things have, go ahead.
No, so I just wanted to harp on one more thing, like before we move on to a different one. But like, I think another key is to know your audience, and know that, if you are, if you are the, a rower, you're on the rowing team, and that like you have a fan base of people that go to the rowing meets, and that's your primary audience. Play into that as much as you can, because social media is basically wildfire. It's hey, I'm proud of so and so, they did great at their meet. They show that to their friends. Now maybe it's broadcasted. Maybe you do something funny and whatever after the meet or something, and it gets picked up by the school Instagram, and then that gets picked up by somebody else, that gets picked up by ESPN. It's like, it's wildfire. So just know your audience. And if your audience doesn't know, a lot of people's audience is going to be kind of younger, but if your audience was, I don't know, like an older generation and they don't even know what the TikTok trend is, know that as well. and so yeah, like if you don't know whatever dance is, like just know, kind of understand like where your audience lies and play into that. So
yeah, I 100% agree. with that too. And to your point, like when we saw, over the last couple of years, TikTok blow up, we all were like, we got to get on TikTok. We got to see what are people talking about? Like, as much as it's something else, it's like, you got to experience it, right? So like, know your audience, also know these platforms, and like lean in. I think that's the through line as well.
And then you'll be hooked like us, like all of us.
You can't stop
way too
scrolling.
much time on TikTok.
Yeah.
When I know, like, I need to dedicate like a chunk of time. Like if I'm gonna open the app, I need to know, like, I don't have anything in, the next 25 minutes because it's going down. I want to hear your thoughts, both perspectives on, and I'll chime in too, on innovation in this space. So innovation as it relates to working with student athletes, what do you guys think that looks like? And I'm not going to lead the question and say the word metaverse, but what do you guys think as it relates to this space? Like, how can you see it being like even more innovative as we move forward?
Yeah, I'll chime in here just real quick, but I think, at least for one thing that I'm excited for, is student athletes right now, I think, are such a prime, there's so many good things like going for student athletes. Like, NIL is brand new, the metaverse is brand new, NFTs brand new, like all this stuff is kind of like brand new. So being able to get in and get first, and being able to monetize that, before, stuff gets, too regulated, or it's harder to get deals or to kind of promote yourself in different ways or different platforms. I think it's so key to kind of get in and like figure out what that is for you, and figure out like what that looks like, and brands kind of know that as well. And they also want to be first amongst all these things. So I think it's going to be a cool couple years here, just to see like where it goes from now.
100%. What do you think, Latarria?
I mean, I want to see the metaverse to be as diverse as possible, and I see this squarely fitting into that piece, that vision. I don't know. I guess I automatically think, when you asked the question, I thought of like NC2A, like that game. Which was huge. Imagine that being like a metaverse type situation with a bunch of student athletes and many more types of sports, not just basketball. And I'm also thinking about Roblox. Like that is a space that I think athletes can sort of get involved in, because they probably already are. I have a 10-year-old, he's obsessed. But all of that is like early metaverse, like all of that, just like the idea that your avatar can live someplace and oftentimes be way cooler than you can. You can take risks there as well. So no, I love it. I see it for NIL. It's gonna be huge.
100%. And I know Chris is here, but to add to that, I see it definitely, it's definitely social right now, but extending beyond that into the metaverse, but into, over the top advertising, billboards. Like I see this shaping its way into marketing as a whole. And like, I mean, events are coming back in. I feel like that will be huge for these athletes for sure. So it's all very exciting for me. So yeah, thank you guys for being part of this. Thanks for chatting today.
We can chat all day.
So fun.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was a great session. I have to be quick because I'm 2 minutes over, but I'm going to embarrass you a little bit right now, Eazy. I just got a text message from a marketer who goes, "Wait, is he Eazy from The Bachelorette?" Yes.
Yeah, that's me.
In the flesh.
In the flesh.
Thank you guys so much. That was an awesome session.